Hi, this is a quick video on how to maintain and sharpen your lino cutting tools. Keeping your tools sharp and maintaining them is the best way to ensure cleaner and easier carving. Sharp tools not only make your carving experience easier, but also safer too, as you won't be trying to use brute force to make the cuts. I think it's a good idea to get into the habit before every carving session to check and strop your tools. Think of it as a little preparation routine. So what are we actually trying to achieve when sharpening? Let's look at the business end of a chisel. The part of the chisel we are most concerned about is the bevel. The bevel forms the cutting edge when it meets the flat inside edge of the chisel. In general, the bevel needs to be at an angle between 15 and 25 degrees. Most tools you purchase will have their cutting edge ground within these angles. The angle of the bevel also determines the angle we have to hold the tool to make it cut efficiently. As well as getting the angle correct, we need the bevel to be as flat and smooth as possible. You can measure the angle of the tool using an angle finder or protractor. Before we look at the process, let's start by going over the difference between sharpening and stropping. When you sharpen or strop a chisel, metal from that chisel is actually being removed. Sharpening is the most aggressive form of this metal removal. You can reset or change the bevel angle and even repair small chips. Sharpening should be done with care and consideration, as you don't want to sharpen your tools to useless stubs. Stropping is the most gentle form of metal removal. With stropping, you are removing any tiny irregularities and really just polishing the edge to maintain it. Stropping regularly will mean you won't need to worry about resharpening so often. So think of sharpening as a full reset and stropping as maintenance. The tools you use for sharpening will depend on your budget. There's no need to spend a lot of money if you don't want to, as there are economical and DIY options available. No matter what your budget is, when buying sharpening stones, wet and dry paper and diamond pads, etc., you need to be mindful of the grit. The grit is a measurement of how coarse the abrasive surface is. The higher the grit number, the finer the abrasive particles are. So a high grit abrasive will remove less material but leave a smoother surface. A low grit or coarse grit will remove material more aggressively and leave a rougher surface. That is why, as a general rule of thumb, you should sharpen from coarse to fine sequentially. Every time you move to a finer grit, you are removing the previous rougher grit's sharpening marks on the metal of your chisel. For small lino tools, it is always best to start with a medium to fine grit, as the chisel bevels are so small that you don't need aggressive material removal, and you don't want them left with scratch marks on the bevels. So here's an economical DIY method using wet and dry paper. You can buy small packs of wet and dry paper that include a range of grits. These can be mounted on a flat surface and the grits labelled. A drop of oil or water and you have yourself a sharpening station that can be replaced as needed. Next we have sharpening stones. This is an example of a natural sharpening stone, this being an Arkansas stone, but there are also many man-made stones. These can be more affordable and the grit is regulated throughout the stone. You'll see sharpening stones listed as oil or water stones. Each name suggests which lubricant you should use when sharpening, with many water stones needing to be saturated with water before use. It should be noted that one advantage of the man-made stones is that they are often double-sided with a different grit on each side. Really, it's up to you which you choose and what works best for you. For these smaller lino tools, you do not need the larger woodworking tool sharpening stones, so you can search for smaller, more affordable ones. Profiled sharpening stones, referred to as slipstones, are useful for cleaning the inside edge of various shaped chisels. These stones are used to clean up the burr created by sharpening on the inside edge, which should always remain flat. Using a profiled strop, as shown later, will also work for this. Finally, we have small diamond pads. Just make sure they are smooth and not textured or latticed in any way, as these are designed for larger chisels and won't work with the small lino tools. These small pocket-sized diamond pads are affordable, this one costing me around £7. Stropping equipment consists of a piece of unpolished leather and some form of abrasive compound. The compound is usually in a solid wax bar form, but polishing compounds in cream can also be found. With stropping, the thing to remember is that the abrasive compound does the work. Use the compound stick every time to refresh the surface of the strop, and it's normal for the surface to discolour due to the stropping. It is possible to make a DIY strop with a scrap of leather or an old belt, etc., but they are widely available and usually reasonably priced. I think most useful are the profiled strops such as the Flex Cut. These are probably what you'll see everyone use online, as they have a variety of size profiles ideal for U-gouge and V-lino tools. There are three main types of lino chisels that we have to sharpen: U-shaped chisels or gouges, V-tools, and flat chisels. Let's start with the simplest, the flat chisel. If we can learn to sharpen this type of bevel correctly, we can apply what we have learnt to sharpen anything. Many lino carving beginners might not have a flat chisel, but I highly recommend getting at least one, as they are an extremely versatile and useful tool. Start by inspecting the cutting edge and bevel to check for any damage, etc. that might need correcting. For sharpening these small-edged lino chisels, I think it's best to use a pull stroke. Start with the first grit, and having applied a small amount of your chosen lubricant, apply light pressure as you move the chisel back, and once at the end of the stroke, lift the chisel off the abrasive material and place at the start again to repeat. Take your time. The most important thing is to maintain the angle at which you hold the chisel. This comes with practice, but you can use a finger to feel for the tipping point or check visually before you start the sharpening stroke. We are looking to end up with a straight, clean bevel. Next, we have the V-tool. This is essentially just two flat bevels, so we can apply what we have learnt. Again, use a pull stroke. Apply light pressure as you move the chisel back, and once at the end of the stroke, lift the chisel off the abrasive material and place at the start again to repeat. With V-tools, make sure to count how many strokes you use on each bevel and to sharpen them the same number of times. Finally, we have U-shaped chisels or gouges, which are probably the most common chisels used in lino carving. This involves a slightly different technique, but with all the previous principles applied. Start at the first grit. Having applied a small amount of your chosen lubricant, hold the chisel at the correct angle and rotate from one side edge to the other side edge as you pull back. Alternatively, you can just rotate the chisel in one place if that is easier. The final method is to use a sideways motion while rotating the chisel. Try the three methods to find which suits you best and gets you the best results. If you have trouble with getting an even bevel when sharpening, you can use a permanent marker to show where you have missed. This can discolour your sharpening stone or paper though. Sharpen as normal and check to see where the permanent marker has been removed. The front cutting edge is the most important part to concentrate on. You can reapply the marker if you feel more sharpening is needed or the bevel is particularly uneven. Another tip for sharpening is to find the bevel angle by feeling for the tipping point stopping when the cutting edge rests flat. Once you are satisfied with your sharpening, we need to remove the inside burr. This can be done with slipstones or with a profiled strop. Remember, we are not sharpening the inside of the chisel, just removing the burr. The inside should always remain flat. Now that we have sharpened the chisel and the bevel is clean and flat, we can give it a strop. Apply the stropping compound, and then using the techniques you have learned through sharpening, use pull strokes to refine the bevel to a mirror finish. You can use the profiled strops to polish the inside surface of the chisel. You can now simply find the correct moulding to fit almost all profiles of chisels. If you don't have a flex cut strop, you can make your own out of shaped wooden dowel or folded pieces of leather, As long as you can put stropping compound on it, it will probably work. Slipstones can be expensive, so an alternative method you can use is with very high grit abrasive paper, shaping it to the profile you need. A visual guide for checking the sharpness of your cutting edge is by angling it towards the light source to see if it is thick enough to reflect light. Properly sharpened, the bevel should meet at a perfect point with the inside edge and shouldn't reflect any light at all. Like and subscribe for more print related videos and content.